Hey guys, it's been a while. We need to talk. In mid-2021, me and my wife were faced with one of the most difficult questions we were ever faced. Should we split up? Should we break apart? This was not the type of split that you were thinking about, but it's similar. I'm not happy about it either. I'm talking about leaving our home of Los Angeles of 12 years and splitting up into two different countries. We knew the benefits for our family, but this was going to be 1 year apart. This scared the shit out of me. Why? Why would we do this? Why would we take what we had there and suddenly make this huge move that was gonna possibly rip us apart and pursue something like this? This practical idea kind of came out of a fear-driven decision-making where both me and my wife, we were faced with particular challenges in our life. It was a reaction, and it was dealing with the pursuit of our passions, the growth of our careers, but also at the same time, just the pandemic was causing this structure to occur naturally. So it wasn't ideal at all. Somehow, we were convinced by the logic. We all moved for very similar reasons, and ours wasn't that different. The usual suspects such as money, obviously. I mean, it's not just about the money itself, it's about a better job, a better direction in your career. It's possibly an upgraded lifestyle for some, also about affordability. It's about sustaining economically. It's about overall career improvement. Another one would be people. Maybe you want to be closer or possibly farther from friends and family. And for some, it's about adventure, a philosophical change in your life, something where you feel like you're stuck in one place and you need to move to a new place to revitalize your life. Another one would be possibly lifestyle. And for the lifestyle, it may be you're there for the culture, you like the environment, possibly you want to find a place to escape that you could be okay with. For some people, it's time, a place to think and to reflect upon your current situation and possibly the future. And in more cases, like more recently, people are moving because of things like war and possible new citizenship and politics. So the reasons are pretty standard, and our move to Asia hit all these categories in different ways. My wife had her startup in Beijing. A big portion of her team was there, and part of it was in Los Angeles. It's well funded by venture capital to a certain degree, and by being closer to it, my wife could more effectively manage it. Unfortunately, as much as we wanted to, we couldn't go with her for obvious country restriction policies. So we had two choices: stay in the US, still separated, or I could go someplace else. That someplace was Taiwan. In some ways, it would allow me to reconnect with my parents, which I haven't met in years, and it also gave us an opportunity to become a citizen of a place that our roots were, which we thought was a good idea. It's a short-term sacrifice for longer-term gains for our future. You know, this could strengthen our family, but what really scares me is that this could tear it apart. The thing about logic is that it's abnormally clean. It's like a fill-in-the-blank template, and you can just mark it like a checklist. It's like a neat little box, you know, it just sounds like the grass is always greener because the reasons make sense. But life is not that simple. Everything sounded fine until the price. The intensity of this movie was insane. I felt like I went through so much emotion and shifts and changes physically and mentally. It just wore me out completely. I had to move the size of 3 homes, and one of them I had to move internationally on a cargo ship during a supply chain crisis. Multiple trips to Home Depot, tons of Amazon orders, all shapes and sizes of packing and storage. Organization to the max. My YouTube studio that I just started using after a year of building got broken down. I had to get all my personal items for me and my son ready and off to Asia with my studio in a shipping container, still during a supply chain crisis. Clean out our current home that I spent 2 years building out, dealt with 30 years of family hoarding in their home. Jesus. To use as storage for my current home, take everything out, chuck it, attack it. I needed the space to store my current home. We were planning to stay at my family home before flying. Then I discovered we couldn't stay. There was mold and rat poo across the entire home. The home got torn down. The entire first floor was flooded. Reconstruction project added. Then there was mold mitigation. Add-on pest control. Additional termite removal from a patio. Store my parents' furniture. Store our home stuff in parents' home during construction. Packed into an Airbnb with my son and my wife. We had nowhere to live. A dramatic hospital trip. Me, my wife, and son were ready for our flights. On the same day, she's off to Beijing. Me and son off to Taiwan. Then my flight got changed. My wife left first. Made desperate attempt to find another Airbnb last minute. So another Airbnb, and this time just me and my son all alone. And then we had to deal with 6 COVID tests, and then we took off and we arrived in Taiwan alone, and then we had to go to a quarantine hotel where we were stuck there for 15 days, couldn't go out, and we were just inside, and I had to take care of the son alone, and then shifted to the second quarantine hotel, and we still couldn't move around, and it was over 21 days in a hotel in addition to the Airbnbs that we stayed in. And then I find out that our place in Taiwan, our family home, we couldn't stay in because it was under construction, and so obviously that's torn down and short-term apartment stay. The insanity of this was one of the most desperate experiences I had in my life. Having to split apart from my wife was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, and I still kind of regret this. It's just the money that it took, the things that went wrong, and how I powered through all that. I mean, this is not just about my body and wallet burning. What it comes down to is this video is my way of getting this off my chest. Sorry if you expected to see something else, but this was a trip through crazy land, and that's why I'm talking to you guys, my personal YouTube therapist. It started with an administrative nightmare of paperwork close to a year ago. Everything I needed to go, passport applications, the application to even go, visas, calls to the Taiwan LA office, tons of money for notaries, legal docs, lawyers, photo shoots, and even an FBI Good Citizens report. It started with an administrative nightmare. Never mind that I was project managing 3 massive moves, 2 home renovation projects, and some work while making 2 videos. After 3 months of it all, what I really dreaded was losing my sanity amongst it all, especially during the quarantine hotel. After arriving in Taiwan, I was about to enter a 320 square foot box with a hyperactive toddler for a whole 30 days without leaving. 24/7 parenting, non-stop. Never mind that it was a nice hotel, because at that point it didn't matter what it was. Factor in our Airbnbs and the hotel, it was a full 45-day spree of me and my son stuck inside, isolated. Effectively, this put a stop to everything I wanted to do. And I was no longer myself. I just had to turn myself into a father machine and just focus on my son. We passed the New Year's for 2022 through a window.
Almost New Year. Almost a New Year. Yeah.
I saw fireworks seeping out of the side of a building near our hotel while the baby was asleep. My child and I grew highly attached to each other. Even though I wanted him to be more independent, he sometimes cries now whenever we leave each other a little bit and wants to hold me constantly. We built an intense relationship in an intense amount of time, and I was tired. I'm sure my wife was as well, because she was apart from us and it was not easy for her as well. And at last, we were finally out. Finally able to breathe. My sanity tested. I ultimately prevailed, and during this whole time, my wife also had a 21-day quarantine across the ocean, a couple hundred miles away, and she also had her mental health tested as well. I was also living in LA that I was born in. I was raised in a sprawl of a city that, despite having increases in crime, homelessness, rising overregulation, rising rental costs, I still love the city. It's where I met my wife. It's where I was born, where I grew up, where my son was born, and where my family raised me. And for me, in this current day, my wife is my life. We are partners in crime in this, and that life in LA, that I miss it. I've been struggling with my ability to be of value as my wife faces all the challenges that she has to face. And then I have my own struggles as a father, someone who must make sure my son grows up well, and my new career as a YouTuber can move forward. Uprooting ourselves has caused a violent shift in our environment, and I'm not so sure that we can all take it. Whether we can adjust or not is a major issue. I remember that moment I saw my wife leave in the shuttle on her way to the airport, and I knew that we would be seeing each other for a year, and I realized I didn't hug her properly. Someone who has always been the son of my life for the last decade, I regretted not giving it to her, and throughout the next few weeks I still regretted it. I hold her close to my heart, even though I don't express it enough. And my biggest worry is that by taking our marriage long distance, I'd be missing out on our morning walks together, our walks to the park with our son, our daily discussions, cooking together, holding hands, sleeping, each physical movement together on a journey, even our arguments. Her charged, fearless, highly spiritual character is the foil to my always calm demeanor. You know, one thing has always been clear to me, that no matter what happens, we would get through it as a family. As for my son, he'd be on the move with me, moving away from the structure we had onto a new adventure. You know, he would be pulled out of school, left in my care, physically unable to be with his whole family, without a mother to hold, and until I find him at a new school. After we got out of quarantine, I made sure my son got his fill of fun. Everyone had a price to pay, and it was a big one, including my wife, Peggy. And so I'm here, and there's a fighter jet heading to the ocean to defend this land in uncertain times in the safest COVID location in the world. Wow, that's ironic. A conflict-driven safe haven. So was it worth it? Well, I'm here, aren't I? I'm now in Taiwan, a place I can reconnect with family, find my roots, build a business here, have a support system. It's affordable living, good healthcare, and it's a hedge for our future. But this was heavy, and I would just say it's a maybe towards yes. Like any long-term dream that we have together, any sort of short-term volatility is only temporary. We just have to fight through it and fight for it together. And the food here ain't too bad either. But it's not a substitute for a complete family. Now, going back, what would I have done better? You know, things like knowing the actual price, the economical, the emotional, and the physical toll it would take on me. Something I totally underestimated, but I still managed to execute on. And then another one is to keep it simple. There were mountains to move. Maybe I could have just chopped up a few hills down, make it a little bit easier on myself. Next was know the people who are involved. I think I overweighted the practicality of this whole move over the humanity of what it would take to deal with splitting our family apart. And in the future, it is paramount that we have support for each other while we're separated, maintaining communication. And the other one is that I need to be flexible. There's just so much changes and so much wrong that would happen. Just important that we remember the purpose of why we did this. So I checked all the boxes, but my biggest box I could not check was that I could not be with my wife. And that's not logical. That's love, and that's my biggest regret. In due time, I really look forward to us being reunited in Los Angeles. I love you, honey, and I hope that we can get through this together. My struggles, your struggles, for our future. That's it for this video. I'm sorry if this got a little bit too long and emotional, but it was a traumatic few months for me and for our family, and it just took a toll on me, but it also allowed me to clear my mind a bit, but still not clear. This is not a typical video that I make, and if you would like to follow me on my journey, and my journey is about how you maximize the enjoyment in your life through the little things. Like my next video is going to be about toast. Please consider subscribing. This is a new road for me, and any support for me would be highly, highly appreciated. So, see ya.